What's up, everyone? Welcome in this week in music. Here we are. It is December 12th. December 12th. Good to see everyone here. Alex, what's up? Good to see you. Welcome in. I'm so excited for our guest today. We have Jordan Mafi with us from the Orchard, and I know her from Berkeley College from Boston. So we're going to have a great conversation. We're going to talk to Jordan first, and then I'll review some music news. I got a couple tracks to play you all, a couple announcements that I discovered that I want to discuss. We'll do that. Hey, there's Jordan right there in the chat. Make sure you follow Jordan. There we go. We'll follow you too. Hold on. Let's follow you. Yes. Okay. There's Jordan right there in the chat. So Alex will give you a shout out. Awesome. Thank you for the follow. We always say, let us know where you're tuning in from, but we'll find that out in a moment. Awesome. Awesome. Okay, while we do this, let's click there. If you have any questions, you can do, it's an exclamation point Q, space your question. We'll highlight your question and put it there. I'll continue to remind you about that. And yeah, that's what we got today. So excited. And without further ado, let's bring Jordan in here really quickly. Okay, so we see you there. Hello, hello. Welcome to This Week in Music. Let's give you a round of applause.
Hi.
Yes, yes, yes.
I love that.
Yes, yes, yes. Give you some applause. Welcome, Jordan. I love to let people maybe introduce themselves. So you could take like 30, 45 seconds a minute, introduce yourself to us, tell us who you are, kind of what you do now, and like your history and when you first fell in love with music. That's your kind of tickler question there.
Love it. Love it. Well, Amani, thank you so much for having me join this podcast. I know you've been crushing it with this podcast for so long, and I'm so grateful that we met during our time at Berkeley Online. But
Yes.
hello, everybody. My name is Jordan Mafi. I have been working full time in music coming up on 5 years now. I'm quite young, but I got my start right when I turned 21, working as the editor of Skrillex's blog Nest HQ. And then right after that, I worked for Beatport for 3 years. I was a curator there. So that was a lot of listening to music all day, every day, making playlists. It was honestly such a wonderful experience. And just recently, a couple of months ago, I started working for The Orchard under Sony Music. I am a label manager specializing in dance and electronic labels in North America. So that's been super, super exciting. And with my education background, journalism school, San Diego State, and then during the pandemic, just like Amani did, I had the bright idea to get my master's degree online. So we were in the same cohort, same classes every time, which was fantastic, especially because it was remote learning.
Yeah.
What else? I also teach at Icon Collective. I teach music business at Icon Collective College of Music that's in Burbank in Los Angeles. Oh yeah, and I'm tuning in from Los Angeles. Forgot
Oh,
to mention
nice.
that. But
Yeah.
yeah, I think I will answer that last question of how I fell in love with music. I grew up in a very musical family. My dad's a musician. My mom was a big, big fan of music, still is. My brother's a drummer in a metal band. And I started raving when I was just 13 years old because I loved the music so much. And they had all ages raves in San Diego where I grew up. And there was just something that spoke to me about this music and the experience of hearing it live, seeing it live, also the culture. And I knew pretty early on that I wanted to work behind the scenes in that scene, and now I am. So it's been
Yes.
really a blessing. It's been a fantastic ride. So thank you for having me.
Of course. Now you're working behind the scenes. Talk to us. How did you first get the first job working with Skrillex, which is a pretty big name to work with, kind of right out the gate?
Oh, yes. I played the long game with that one. And so I always admire when somebody carries this out because it's not easy. And especially it wasn't easy because I was 19 to 20 years old when I started volunteer writing for Nest HQ. For those of you who don't know what Nest HQ is because it doesn't exist anymore, it was a blog that was launched by Skrillex and a guy named Jonah Berry in 2013, I believe. And it was just right after, the blog house era of music. It was right after, blogs like Gotta Dance Dirty were kind of on their way out. So it was just a really cool free release label, and the writers could just write about any music that they liked. There was no real, journalistic kind of strategy there. It's just sharing music that you like. And so I decided when I was in my junior year at undergrad at San Diego State that I was just going to cold DM anybody who worked for the site because I wanted to write for them so badly. And thankfully, a wonderful man named Nathan Beer, who was the managing editor at the time, responded to my DM and told me what kind of writers they're looking for. I sent in a submission. I actually got rejected the first time around and said that my writing wasn't too strong. And so, once again, a few months later, tried again. I made the volunteer writing team. So it was unpaid. However, I finally had bylines online and especially on Skrillex's blog. And I was a
Yeah.
college student, so it just made sense. And here's where the long game part comes in. The summer before my senior year, I had one day off of work each week, which was Wednesdays. So I decided I'm going to wake up at 5:30 a.m. on Wednesdays, leave my house by 6 a.m., and I'll be at the Nest HQ office in LA by like 9:30. And I would do this every single Wednesday for the summer of 2017. And that was what really proved to the editors there and everybody at Ausla and at Nest that I was determined. Like I was hardcore. I was driving, 2.5 hours to get
Yeah.
there and staying until the nighttime just to have the traffic die down. So
Yeah.
that was a really big part of it is just showing up and being in the room and showing that I was there. So when I did graduate with my bachelor's degree in journalism, they said, you want to be an editor and move here? I said, absolutely. So that is how
Mhm.
that happened. Cold DMing and
Yes.
just, following through.
That's what, and so just so people understand, you were commuting from San Diego to LA in this horrific traffic. You got up early, 120 miles minimum, and you fought the traffic, got here in a couple hours, and go back the same day while you were still in
Yep.
undergraduate, correct?
Yep.
Yeah,
Correct.
that's that good work ethic right there. Amazing. Okay,
Thank
so
you.
how from there, how did you discover the job at Beatport, and what really interested you about that job?
Yeah. So I've been using Beatport since I think, when I learned how to DJ when I was 16, which still not a professional DJ. I'm a hobby DJ, which is still lots and lots of fun. And when Nest HQ very suddenly shut down, none of us were expecting it at all. I took a couple of months to just decide what it is that I wanted to do because forever I said I want to be a dance music journalist. And those of you who are plugged into the dance music scene, where some of the blogs that are reporting on dance music, it's very few and far between now. Especially the kind of content that I used to write at Nest, track reviews, just posting about a cool music video. That content doesn't really excite people anymore. So
Mm,
I was concerned that I got this degree in journalism. I'm not going to be able to use it for, dance music, but maybe I could still work for a music publication. And so I took some time. I went to Europe. I went to a hardcore festival in Europe all by myself in the Netherlands for my first time ever going there.
okay.
Just had my own experience. And when I came back, I said, okay, I'm going to go apply for jobs now. I went on indeed.com. People ask me, where did you find that job? I'm like, I went to indeed.com, typed in electronic music or dance music. Those are the keywords that I use in LA. And lo and behold, Beatport is hiring an EDM curator based in Los
Mhm.
Angeles to curate dubstep, electro house, future house, big room. And I said, wow, that's me right there. So that's honestly, I applied on Indeed, got a call back. And it was funny that my manager at the time said, we never actually have interviewed someone from Indeed. And I remember getting an accidental rejection email for my application. And the moment later, I get an email from a Beatport email that says, sorry, that was an accident. We didn't mean to reject this, but it was
Right.
because usually the Indeed applications maybe are irrelevant or people don't include the right information. But yeah, Indeed is how it happened. And I also got the job at the Orchard by applying on Indeed.
Okay, Indeed works. I love it. I love
Indeed
it.
works.
How has your career in journalism helped you both at Beatport and then at the Orchard?
That's a great question. I think that being a good writer is a skill set that is essential to honestly any industry. And Amani, you know this from our time at Berkeley Online, how important it is to know how to write. It's a lot of essays. It was
It
only
is.
essays, basically. So I never thought I was going to even go to a master's program. And when I did, and I realized all the assignments, were essays. I was like, oh, thank God, I know how to do this. So So that, it was great for my education, but also I find that when you work a music job, especially dance music, where you're involved with the community, you kind of act as a leader, a tastemaker, like yourself, Amani. It's really good to know how to communicate with your audience, but also how to tell a story with words so that you can engage people. I find that, even just in writing emails, in writing pitches to other people, in writing press releases, release blurbs, it's proven so useful that I have this expert knowledge of writing, even if it's not the same kind of writing I learned in journalism school with reporting and whatnot. Not only that for the writing, but I think that being able to edit yourself and also knowing how to research well is something that I learned in journalism school. And I think we can all agree that being able to Google and find the answer to something that you want is a skill. You have to know how to know
Yeah.
what you're asking for. And I honestly, every day in my job, there's something that comes up, some question from a client that I'm like, I don't know how to answer that. This is really specific, having to do with one streaming platform. Let me do some research. And after, 15, 20 minutes of deep digging, I can find it. So that's a
Yeah.
great skill as well.
Yeah, yeah, writing. Now, okay, so then you were at Beatport. That's when I first met you. Really, what was the inspiration behind applying for and attending Berkeley online?
I knew when I was finishing my bachelor's degree, I thought, wow, I could get a master's degree. I never thought that I would be the person who would graduate from university. I'm the first in my family to go to college at all. My parents didn't go to college, but they have successful careers, and that's fantastic. And it was kind of like I had to convince them I should go to college, and I'm
Mm,
really happy that all worked out. But when I was finishing, I thought, wow, a master's degree would be great. But I realized that would probably cost just as much as what it did to get my bachelor's in a shorter amount of time. So I kind of just put it down for a while. I got to work. I moved to LA right when I turned 21, like the month after, and started working. So it was only when the pandemic hit and we were on lockdown that I was getting a lot of anxiety. Just I think everybody was in
mhm,
general,
mhm.
just
Yeah.
at the state of the world. And when I finally saw a psychiatrist for the first time, got on anti-anxiety medicine, got on some things that just really helped. It was like night and day. I was a new person, and I don't know if it was like an overly sense of confidence or something, but I was like, I'm going to apply for a master's program. I'm going to do it. And, applied to Berkeley. I got all these recommendations from, the executives at Beatport, my old professors at State. And when I got in, I thought, oh my gosh, why did I do that? I'm in over my head. This is going to be so much. I was terrified. And I only took 2 classes at a time because full time is 3, as you know, Amani, and that's just too much when you're working
That's a
full
lot.
time.
Yes, that's a lot. Yes.
Yes. Yeah. So I one of my big things about working in this industry and just me as a person, I want to be an expert in the things that I love. So that was the inspiration for seeking a master's degree in music business. I just want to know how all of it works. And I knew that learning things like reading contracts, law in general, music business policy, data analytics, those
Mhm.
classes, these are things that we could learn, on our own over time. But I really liked having these courses at the perfect time in my career where I should just be soaking in everything. So that's really what inspired it. Maybe a little boredom, maybe
Yeah.
just feeling real confident and good for the first time in a while. So I'm very happy that I did it. I think that if I were given the chance, today to do that sort of thing, I might not take it because, you know, that we all have to work a lot to live in LA.
Yes, we do.
And it was a perfect time. It really was. And I'm very grateful that I had a job where I could work from home during the pandemic. That was huge. So
Yeah.
I took advantage of it how I could.
Yeah, yeah. Just so you all are aware, when she says there was a lot of writing in those classes, I have never written as much as I wrote during all those classes. And the thing is that they start you off with the first 2 classes. Um, the writing is even more overwhelming. It is bananas. I was like, what have I got myself into? So
Yeah.
Riptide Music. I think that's one of your friends there. Welcome in, Riptide
Oh,
Music. Welcome.
hello. Hi.
Yes,
How
yes.
fantastic.
So thank you for joining us. Let me just
Mhm.
say there was so much writing there.
Yeah, so much.
Which this is actually a good segue because one of my passions, which I think was kind of some of the things we discussed in one of our classes, we are supposed to come up with some kind of business plans, is that there's such a huge knowledge gap in the music industry between like executives with like the labels and the musicians, whether it's entry level musicians, mid tier, even experienced musicians. Why do you think that's the case?
Hmm. That's a good question. I wanna hear your opinion. And
Ah,
I know I'm sorry to flip it on
right.
you.
You can flip it. You can flip it. Yeah.
Yeah.
I think that a lot of times we have these musicians that come in and they're so focused on this, their creativity and their art, that they want to get signed
Mhm.
with the label. They want to kind of go on tour. They want to create merch and do all this. When in essence, they have to kind of slow down and really be careful about who they're surrounding themselves with, what they're signing, what the terms are for what they're signing. But we get so caught up in our excitement to get the deal and get on Billboard and do all that that we just don't take the time. When I say we, I'm talking about artists that are new, mid, experienced or very experienced, just to really understand the music industry, how it's evolving, and really making sure that you try your best to own as much of your work as you can. And I think that a lot of times it's in retroactive, like once they realize, uh-oh, I don't have this, uh-oh, I don't have this, why not? Then they want to learn, when really they should try to learn and create at the same time. But most time people are so focused on their art. That's my opinion.
Great. Okay. So that's why I wanted to hear yours first because, I am not a musician. I'm not an artist. I was classically trained as a singer as a kid, but I never did anything with it. I slay karaoke, and that's about it. But I like to hear this from the artist perspective because usually when I tell up and coming artists this exact topic, they almost feel like they can't identify with it yet because they think, oh well, I don't even have record labels talking to me. I don't even have any of this yet. So they also don't understand how it feels when you do have people knocking on your door and maybe there's different options on the table, and they kind of feel like I'm just going to take the first thing that I get because I want to speed up this process of building my career. There definitely is this sense of urgency, and I mean, I understand. I can be pretty impatient when it comes to achieving some of my goals. I think we all can be.
Yeah.
uh, but I think there's so much competition, especially in dance music. And I mean, I'm biased because that's where I work in that space. But I think that people look at each other and their peers and they'll see, oh, this person that started producing like 3 years before I did is touring the world and has a record deal and has an agent, and has a great management team behind them. So what am I doing wrong? And that's not how to approach it ever. I feel like it's advice in just about any kind of work situation to not compare yourselves to the others around you because everyone's on a totally different journey. There are some artists who completely blow up when they're 18 years old and they're already touring. And then there's other artists who don't really get their big break until they're in their 30s, sometimes 40s. And there's benefits and drawbacks to both, being an 18-year-old touring artist. Do you remember how dumb you were when you were 18? I'm sorry. I'm
Yes.
not calling 18-year-olds dumb, but I am very glad that I was not working in the industry then because there's a lot that you learn over, especially in your early 20s, and working in music that just changes everything. So I think that having the wisdom and the experience of being in the business is a fantastic thing. And I don't like when I hear some artists think that they're too old to be successful now, that they miss their window because they're not, this 18-year-old prodigy producer, which that happens, but um, the fans don't really care about that. And even the labels, it's really great when there's a super young artist who's really talented because of course that's exciting, and usually this will they can relate to the youngest generation and kind of bring them up into their space and
Mhm.
influence the culture for them. But Uh, I think that when you are somebody who is an expert in this industry and you spent a long time learning and making connections and dabbling into other ways of creating art or making money by doing all sorts of different skills that are still creative and still fulfill you, there's a lot of power in that. So I think there's definitely just this habit of producers looking at each other and their peers and comparing their journeys. And, I guess I don't know why it is. I think it's honestly a human nature type of thing. It's really hard to look at others around you and feel like I'm not as successful as they are. I want to be where they are and it's just not happening. The way that you remedy that is you talk to more people, you connect with more people, you learn from more people, expand your knowledge. Because there's nothing better than being the person in the room who can actually answer the question or provide a perspective that nobody else can. So that was a pretty long-winded way of answering that, but yeah.
That's good. That gives some insight kind of on the other side too, because didn't really consider that they might not even really be aware or just understand just yet. So good to
Mhm.
know. Now, as we maybe segue from that question, which we could spend a whole hour on, to more
I
like
know.
A&R. We talk a lot in my classes about A&R. In today's day and age, and you don't have to share all your secrets, but what are some of the best way to kind of discover like new music, new artists that we might not think of? Like, of course, we're going to go to the playlist and things like that, but what are some
Mhm.
outside the box ways to discover new artists that we should be doing as music professionals and music consumers?
Yeah, I mean, I will say that when I was at Beatport, I had to listen to Phew, about 2,000 tracks a
Oof,
week,
so
constantly,
many.
sometimes more. Yes, and across, the EDM genres that I curated. And when I was at Beatport, there was definitely a time where I decided, like, I don't have time to find music on my own anymore. I'm just gonna be listening to excuse me, AirPod down. But I'm just going to listen to, the music I have to at work because I had such bad ear fatigue at the end of the day, and producers know this. Any other curators know this, that at the end of a long day curating, I couldn't even watch TV with the volume all the way up. I had to have the captions on because my brain just decided to not uh, process what I was hearing. So
Yeah.
it made it pretty difficult to discover music just on my own accord. But thankfully, I had a wonderful tool for discovering new music that wasn't even out yet because I got to listen to it ahead of
Right.
time.
Yeah.
However, now that I'm not listening to 2,000 tracks a week, I have fallen in love with making my own playlists, with digging for new artists again, and it's really been so special to feel like I have that connection to discovering new music again. One of the most basic ways that I find new music and artists, I use Spotify. I like Spotify. It's easy. I know some people have other preferences, and I'm sure that other streaming platforms have a similar function. But if I find a song that I'm like, this song is banging, I love everything about it, but I don't really know any other artists who make music like this, I will listen to the track radio. And sometimes, like the
Yeah.
Spotify track radio, sometimes there will be things in there that I'm like, it's not really the vibe. But there's those gems that are like, oh my God, this is so niche and weird. And I wouldn't have found it anywhere else. Like, I just discovered this artist called Ascendant Vierge.
Mhm.
It's French for a virgin ascendant, and it's one half of this group called Casual Gabbers, and they're French gabber DJs who are just a riot. You should watch their Boiler Room set. Casual Gabbers and Boiler Room is insane. And then a singer songwriter who made this project together that is like really disrespectful beats and like gabber kicks and this beautiful, female singer with this amazing angelic voice. And it's all in French. I don't understand any of it, but I absolutely love it. And
Nice.
I think I discovered it listening to I Hate Models radio on Spotify because I Hate Models is like a hard techno French artist. So I love because it's like how else am I going to discover a French gabber ballad kind of artist.
Right.
That's such a random uh, type of genre, but I love it. So yeah, listening to the song radio of things that you can't really pinpoint, what genre it is, or maybe kind of what you can always look at like people also like, and they'll recommend similar artists, but I find you get really unique tracks in there. What else? I mean, I haven't really been using SoundCloud for digging anymore.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, yeah, not so much. I know some people still do. I know that there's still, a bit of a small but thriving community on SoundCloud. I'm an avid Twitter user and I follow a lot of artists. I follow a lot of people on Twitter just to stay connected. And I love it when artists I follow post, whips, and they post just like previews of stuff they're working on. Because then that's when you're like, oh, I know like a bunch of dub plates that have yet to come out. And I feel, definitely ahead of the curve when those tracks finally come out. And then my friends, of course, any friends who are like, hey, you should totally listen to this. It's super weird,
Mm-hmm.
or it's really hardcore, or it just reminded me of you. I am very grateful. And I'm sure, Amani, you can really relate that I have friends with such good taste in music.
Touche. Yes, yes, yes. Okay, so that's good with the A&R and that. You also go to a lot of live shows post pandemic. Have live
Mhm.
shows kind of met your expectations? Are they different now? What are you noticing when you go to like a lot of live shows nowadays?
Well, I definitely noticed that I get a lot more tired than I used to before the pandemic.
Yeah.
I didn't go out at all while we were on lockdown. Definitely didn't go to shows. I think I did the Insomniac Park and Rave. So I did,
Mhm.
COVID friendly things, and, coming back to shows now, right in the beginning too, everyone is just happy and excited and grateful to be there. I think the newness and the novelty of it has kind of died down again. And now going to shows is like business as usual for those of us who are involved in the music scene. Um, I think that people are, and I'm speaking totally about, electronic music. People are getting a lot more sophisticated and just unique with the tracks that they play. Some artists that I saw years ago before lockdown, who are great DJs, but maybe, I don't know, their sets could have been a little formulaic or they stick to one genre. I'm seeing right now, especially in the bass music scene, like the mainstream kind of dubstep artists are playing like breaks, they're playing jungle, they're playing drum and bass, they're playing a lot of these legacy sounds and just some styles that the status quo may not have heard before. And so that's really cool. I love that people are branching out, and this could just be the evolution of electronic music at work, but I also think that people didn't want to just come back to the same exact events, playing the same music, uh, planning the same sets, even having like different themes, different kind of live experiences. I just saw Cascade and Deadmau5 at the Coliseum on Saturday, and their stage setup, they were on in two different DJ booths that were on a track that were rotating and moving around. I'm like, how do they communicate when they're
Yeah.
going back to back? And there's drones in the sky spelling out the song titles as they play them, and it was all so extra, but I loved it. I absolutely loved it.
Wow.
And so
That sounds
creating a
amazing.
different experience. Yeah, creating a
Mhm.
different experience is definitely up there. And something else that I've really liked seeing is people going to shows are becoming more educated about the fentanyl epidemic that is, it's the leading cause of death for adults 18 to 24 in America. And people seem to be a lot better at looking out for each other, knowing the signs of overdose, because unfortunately there are a lot of other substances that are getting laced with fentanyl, and it's killing a lot of people. So I've seen a lot more harm reduction and a better sense of togetherness in the community, despite what genre you like or what artist you stan or what artist you hate. Um,
Mm.
it's people come together to keep each other safe, much more than they used to, from my personal experience. So that's been wonderful. I think that the sense of community is still so strong, even stronger in these niche electronic communities.
Since you kind of brought that up about the whole fentanyl epidemic, like what, in terms of new skills that you're looking to learn, you finished grad school, like what are some other skills that you're kind of learning and you feel are going to be necessary to kind of further your career? When you bring up fentanyl,
Mm.
that brings up a whole new element of just like a risk assessment,
Mhm.
also like public relations. Like what are some of the new skills you're looking to learn?
Yeah, interesting. So I will preface this by saying there's a wonderful organization. It's called End Overdose. Insomniac has actually brought them on to their festivals and events, and I've seen their presence. I saw their booth at the Cascade and Deadmau5 show. And anybody can get Narcan certified. Narcan is the life-saving medication that if somebody is overdosing, you just spray it in their nose and it reverses an overdose. And they will send it to you in the mail for free. You can do a free lesson on how to administer Narcan. They will also send you fentanyl test strips for free. I think if it's endoverdose.org. And this is something that is really taboo, or has been. And I think I'm of the belief that when we don't talk about drug use and we don't talk about the dangers and the safety measures we need to take, that's killing people. That's letting people down because we're not sharing this knowledge. You know, if you don't know what it looks like when somebody is overdosing, or you think, oh, they don't take fentanyl or they don't take heroin, they're not overdosing. That might not be true because unfortunately they're seeing a lot of fentanyl trace amounts in cocaine and ketamine, some of these drugs that often people in the electronic music scene will take, and just one little sniff can kill you. So it's really important to me that I learn how to keep my community safe and that I know what to look out for, how to share this knowledge with other people like I am now. And this is something that, especially in electronic music and the rave scene, we for many years have kind of championed, you know, looking out for one another, making sure we're all taken care of, that everyone's safe, more so than I think some other styles of music. So I think just being an advocate for what you believe in is really important, even outside the music business. But I also recognize that I have a bit more of a platform now than I did a few years ago, and I want to use that to help my community. And that's something that, you know, is near and dear to my heart. I've multiple people I've loved who have died of overdoses, some accidental overdoses. So it's very worth talking about right now. And going forward, even just other skills that aren't necessarily related to listening to music or picking music or working with labels, staying knowledgeable about what's going on with politics, even in this country, even in other countries. There are so many news stories across the world about rights for musicians and advocacy for musicians, legislation that might be introduced that will either help musicians or hurt them. So I think being knowledgeable and plugged in to what's going
Mhm.
on beyond your scene and what's going on beyond the dance floor and what's going on beyond, you know, this experience right here, reading Music Business Worldwide and staying up to date with music outlets on Twitter is super important. I think that when you advocate for artists and their rights, you know, it's a win for everybody. So
Yeah. Yeah,
yeah,
you mentioned politics, and I'm going back to our business policy class at Berkeley, which was
yeah,
actually one of my favorites. But
right.
that's another example of how the knowledge gap, like when people are coming there, they don't realize that at the local level, there are things that are happening that can affect their rights, whether it be working with local radio in terms of radio
Mhm,
distribution, just anything in terms of copyright law. Like a lot of musicians
mhm.
underestimate the impact and power that copyright law has over them. So,
Yes.
what can you kind of speak to that? And then I want to ask you about advice for students too. I got to shout out Russell Edmond. What's good, Russell? Good to see you. Jeremy Doodle's in the
Mhm.
place. So we got people tuning in from all over the world. But yeah,
All
like
right.
copyright law, and just talk to us about kind of
Mhm.
how that might be missed by musicians as well.
Yeah. Oh my gosh, it's a doozy. I mean, I remember when we first entered our intro to copyright class, and I thought, like, I am not going to be able to read these cases. I'm not going to be able to understand it. I have to write like a 900 word essay about this, and I have
Mhm.
no idea where I'm
Yes,
going to begin. But we did it, and we got A's in it. So
yes, we did.
it's copyright law, and even when you go beyond copyright law, streaming rights, neighboring rights, just
Mhm.
royalties in general, it
Yes.
it goes deeper than you think if you aren't already kind of well versed in this. And in the Icon Collective Music Business Program, we touch on some of these topics. You know, we're definitely not going to teach you how to read a contract like a lawyer can. You should always get a lawyer, even if you know
Always.
how to read a contract. So we do touch on these things, and it's so it honestly kind of makes me giggle when I see students kind of look at the board when I'm talking about things like publishing rights and the difference between who gets the royalties versus from the songwriter versus the performer. Which publisher are they registered with? Oh, but are they registered with other PROs in territories outside of the United States to collect those royalties? And I just see some of my students' faces like, uh-huh. And like, yeah, it's a lot. So, I mean, I think that thankfully, I only in my job, I think I've only yet had to deal with, oh, can you just block off some of these territories because we don't have rights in these territories. And thankfully, someone can tell me, like, we don't have rights in these two territories. Can you please make sure we don't distribute to those territories? I think that the best thing you can do is just stay knowledgeable. You don't need to go to a degree program to learn these things. The internet is amazing. There are so many resources. A lot of independent distributors online, TuneCore, Symphonic, some of those, they have amazing guides for musicians that kind of breaks down copyright law, publishing, where different royalties go, who collects certain royalties. It's honestly still confusing to me sometimes. Like I still have to Google, like, okay, wait, let me make sure I got this right.
It's a lot.
And newsflash, everybody who works in music and is successful is a master at Google. Like you have to be. You have to be able to do your research. I think
Yes.
it's silly to think that we all know this just off the top of our head. But we are familiar with it in some capacity. And I mean, that's kind of the beauty of being a jack of all trades. And Amani, you can relate to this for sure. Just having lots of different hands and different things that are at least music related. You just learn as you go. I'm only 26. I have a lot to learn still, and I'm glad that I kind of had this head start. It's
Right.
great, but I'm learning something new every day. Like I just learned that BMI is moving to a for-profit
Yes. For
business
profit model.
model, which
Yes.
is quite interesting and sets an interesting precedent for what's to come with publishing. So that I could talk about that forever too. But
Yes. Yes,
yeah.
we could. You mentioned a
Mhm.
couple, so I want to follow up books
Yep.
that you feel you'd love to recommend to people who want to learn about the industry, or it can be like biographies, autobiographies of maybe musicians or professionals. What book
Mm.
comes to mind? Books, plural, that come to mind in terms of recommendations.
Yes. How could I not recommend All You Need to Know About the Music
Yes.
Business by Donald
Yep.
Passman? That is
Yes.
the music industry Bible. And I just love the format of that book because he prefaces with like, you don't need to read this cover to cover. You can flip to whatever applies to you, leave the rest. So that one is essential. And it's funny because my music I read some of the music industry textbooks that I didn't realize were optional, but I bought them anyway when we were in our first few terms at Berkeley. I had them on my Kindle, so I read a couple of those. I don't know why I'm completely spacing on what those are called, but this book isn't music related, but this is for any women who want to work in music or even just in any professional capacity. It is a book. It's called The Politics of Promotion: How Women Get Ahead and Stay Ahead. And
Mhm.
I I think most people hear, politics in the workplace, they think, "Oh, I'm not going to participate in that because that just sounds like it's a mess." But if you don't participate in the politics, you will be left behind while everybody else is participating. Understanding why one person might get a raise versus another, how to just conduct yourself as a professional who knows what they deserve, but also is great to be around and is clearly happy to be in the job that they are. So, for any women who do want to work in the music business and understand that it can be cutthroat and people can have, judgments and very archaic um, thoughts about women working in music, I highly recommend checking that out. The Politics of Promotion. What else? I'm gonna be completely honest. I haven't read a book probably since we
Grad school.
finished Berkeley.
Yes, a year ago. Yes.
Honestly, I'm gonna be real with you. My friend just lent me some fiction books, and I'm not
Mm.
much of a fiction reader, but she lent me some horror books. I love horror movies, so I actually did start reading those. And my goal for 2023 is to read 10 books. So
Okay. I
we're
like
getting
that
there.
goal. All right, we're getting there. You mentioned music business worldwide. What are some other
Mhm.
good sites to kind of keep up with like the music industry in terms of what's happening, news, new releases? What are your favorite sources there?
Yeah, I mean, I will always say, and it sucks because the platform is not what it used to be, but Twitter has always been my hub for getting information. When I was in journalism school, they made it very clear to all the students that we need to be on Twitter and we need to know how to use it well and wisely, getting the most out of the platform that we can. So I follow like every news outlet that has anything to do with my interests, world news, local news, even news from my hometown, but also lots of different music blogs. So many different ones. I mean, from the niche, electronic blogs, like This Song Is Sick, Your EDM, or even more niche ones like Electric Hawk, who cover bass music and the like, versus Rolling Stone and Pitchfork and Billboard.
Mhm. Yeah.
If you do want to be plugged into industry news and all the happenings, I would recommend subscribing to Billboard Pro.
Yep.
I know it is investment; it's not too expensive, but you can access a lot of great content and articles there. It was always the worst when I would see this amazing article on Billboard. It's like, this is for pro only. I'm like, I just need to bite the bullet and pay for pro.
Yeah, exactly.
hmm I'm trying
Okay.
to think if there's anything else that I am, like, regularly checking or reading. It's funny because it's on Twitter. I completely black out when I think, like, "Who am I reading?" But it's because I have everything organized on Twitter. I also recommend using a Twitter list. I don't know if,
Yes.
those of you use Twitter lists. I showed this to some of my students a couple weeks ago, and they had no idea,
Yeah.
that existed. So you can add, any publications or even record labels or artists, and you can have a feed that is just those accounts. So Twitter lists if you want to curate your feed yourself.
Love it. I love it. Now, kind of the last kind of questions that we have
Mhm.
would be advice. I know a lot of my students are close in age to you, a little younger. They're looking to really kind of make a name for themselves in the music industry. Um, and it's kind of funny to say if you could go back 4 years ago to your 21-year-old self, but like if you, well, wait, you're going to come to my class next semester, but if you're going to be in my class, say tomorrow, and you're going to give them
Mhm.
advice about pursuing a career in music and kind of what they should look out for, what advice do you share with students who are just about to enter the industry?
Yes, great question. And it's funny because I'm like, oh my god, like 5 years ago was when I started working full time, and a lot of people are surprised to hear that just because I am so young, and I've had these what many consider like a high profile EDM kind of job. I mean, I definitely didn't believe it when I was like, I'm working for Skrillex and I'm living in Los Angeles at 21. That's crazy. um, I think that, if you're at this point where you're about to enter the music industry and you're looking for full time work, and really just starting your career, stay open minded. I know that it's really easy to set your sights on this one dream job, or put all your eggs in one basket. I also see producers do this with, record labels that they really want to be signed to. They'll kind of like make music specifically so they could pitch it to that label. And then, if it gets passed on, they feel like, oh, okay, well, there goes that dream. And they don't even submit that music to other labels or release it themselves, which I think is silly, really. I think that you should stay open minded. I know it's easy to want what the most popular label is or what label you and all your friends like, or even just like when you want to play shows. If a certain venue you don't love wants to book you and it's like, that's kind of like a dud gig. Like, no, nothing is. Nothing is. Play
All
it.
right.
Play the gig. So staying open-minded, that'll be great because there are some companies that have music departments that you don't even realize how much work there is that they do in the music industry. Film studios, television shows, other entertainment lanes, music for sure is a big part of that. So staying open minded. Also, the advice that I give to anybody who asks, how did you stand out and how did you get hired in all of these instances?
Mhm.
I do not believe I am the smartest person in the room. And there's that saying, if you're the smartest person in the room, go to another room.
Ooh,
um,
yes.
but what I made sure there were a lot of times I felt like I wasn't as knowledgeable about music or some topics as others in the room, or maybe they'd seen more success than me. But I made sure I was the person in the room who was working the hardest and put in all of my effort. because yeah, you could be the smartest person in the room, but if you aren't giving it your all, I think that people, employers, managers, anybody who sees you genuinely putting in the work and just crushing it, even if, maybe like you could be more knowledgeable on XYZ, but that's an investment that an employer or a manager or a label makes in you because they see the potential there. So I say keep working hard, give it your all when you are kind of proving your skills, whether it's in an internship or it's just working on a project with somebody. I think it really reflects well when you put 110% into that. Even if you think nobody's going to see it. I have things that I put out like years ago that I didn't know anybody would ever take a look
Right.
at that. Like, I found out you made this video for this DJ. I'm like, oh my God, I'm not even a video editor. That was so bad, but I gave it my all. And and so that's really great that when you look back too, that you put all the effort in that you could. And that actually makes it easier to not be so hard on yourself. When you don't get chosen for an opportunity, it's like, okay, but it's not that I'm not good enough. Maybe it just wasn't the right fit for me. I gave it everything I could, and clearly it means I'm on to something else, maybe something better. So, is there any last bit of advice? Be a great person to be around. That's a big thing,
Great.
like, that doesn't even
Yes.
have to do with
Yes.
skills.
Mhm.
No one's gonna wanna hire you as their manager or in their office or even guest list you to shows if you are not a great person to be around. If you're bringing down the vibe or you don't know how to conduct yourself, especially in dance music, I see people who, drink a little bit too much when they go and they're guest listed at clubs, and it can be kind of embarrassing. So I will say, even if you're not particularly thinking that you're super talented yet or have much to offer, if you genuinely just make connections, not networking, don't think of it like that. Just make
Right.
friends with people, get to know them, and the business will follow.
Yeah. All right. I put your Twitter in the chat. That's the best way for people to
Thank
follow
you.
and support you.
Yes, Twitter #1.
And number one, awesome. Well, Jordan, first of all, very proud of you. You're doing great work. I have a feeling you get a lot of these 30 for 30, 30 under 30 awards, whatever. It's just keep doing the good work for us. I'm proud to be your classmate and all that. I can't wait for you to come and talk to the students next semester. We're going to set that up early
Yeah.
on. And just thank you for giving us some of your time today.
Of course, Amani, thank you so much for inviting me. This has been fantastic and a long time coming. I'm so excited to meet your students and speak to them next term. And thanks everybody for tuning in. I so
Yes.
appreciate it. You guys rock.
Yes. 1 cent 44. Great, great. The fan, Fighter J, good to see you. So round of applause for Jordan. Thank you very much. Good stuff. All right. Okay, now we're going to get to a little bit of news here as Jordan kind of continues about her day. So thank you. So yeah, I agree, Songbird. Great interview. Appreciate that. What we're going to do now is a couple things here. Let's go to, hold on for a minute here. We're going to go and I have a couple announcements about some tours. So certain tours that are actually happening right now that have been announced, musician tours. So we're going to look at that. And then we'll talk and have a couple of songs to play for you. So first up, let's go here. Hold on, let me get my little screen ready here. Okay. So, okay, here we go. So Anita Baker announced her tour dates. This is her first tour in, oh my goodness, 28 years. First full tour in 28 years. So she's going on tour here, and I want to show you all the cities. Let's go down to the bottom. You can see it, but Auntie Anita is going on tour. Starts off February. So in 2 months, she'll be in Hollywood, Florida. Songbird, all the crew there. She's going to Atlanta State Farm Arena on the 14th, Valentine's Day show right there. Then she makes her way to New Orleans, New York, Baltimore, Chicago, comes to LA in like a whole year. So you can see how it's spaced out. February, then she takes a couple months off, then back in May, then one date late June, July, kind of 4th of July time frame. Then she takes another, let's look here, 4 months off, 4.5 months off, and then November. Maybe she might have some dates in here. She might go to Essence. I don't know. I'm just making a grand prediction. Then towards the end. All right. Do you have your tickets yet, Songbird? Let us know. So that's the tickets went on sale about a month ago. So Live Nation, another Live Nation tour here. So we've got Janet Together Again tour. Pre-sale starts tomorrow, right? Yeah, tomorrow. Pre-sale for Janet is tomorrow. General sales is this Friday. Her opening act is Ludacris. So that's Janet. She's going on tour right there, and all that. So there we go for that. Now I want to play all this artist. First of all, let me know if you can hear this real quick. Give me a one in the chat if y'all can hear this. No sound. I wonder what's going on here with my sound. I gotta check that out. Hold on. Let's see here. Voice meter. Hardware out. Let's do something really quickly here. Let's reset. I'm gonna reset the sound. Hold on. Uh, let's see. Do you hear it now? Otherwise, we'll. Still no sound. Interesting. Okay, we'll figure that out for next time. I'll save it for next week. I don't know what's going on. Okay, next up here, we got this article I see here. Best R&B albums of 2022. So let me know in the chat if you know or if you had any of these albums. I'm gonna flip through them really quickly. We have Alex Isley and Jack, I think it's Dine, Marigold. I haven't heard this one, but I got to listen. So we got right here. This is the daughter or great granddaughter of Ronald Isley, I want to say. That's her connection. So she's definitely connected in the music industry right here. Amber Mark, Three Dimensions Deep. Anyone heard these? Let me know in the chat as we go through them. Ari Lennox, Age, Sex, Location. And then Aaron Ray, Hello Poison. Let's know that one. And then Brent, how do you pronounce his last name? Fayez, I want to say Wasteland. That's another person there. Domi and JD Beck, Not Tight. So this is a good R&B album. LMA, Heart on My Sleeve. We know we're big fans of LMA here. So we got to listen. There's 15 tracks on this album. So, a lot of times they only release albums like 7 or 8. I know. I'll put the link to this article in the chat because this is a good one here. FKA Twigs. So that's her right there. Say one of the most underrated albums right here. Giveon, Give or Take. So what we'll do next week, Kehlani, y'all know I love Kehlani. Saw her in concert in September. I want to go see her again. Different circumstances there. Blue Water Road. So I'm a big Kehlani fan. So this is one here. And then Locre, Elizabeth. These are all artists that I haven't really heard of. So I got some listening to do. Lucky Day. We know Lucky Day. Candy Drip right here. PJ Morton. If Philip and Guido is watching, I can't wait for my PJ Morton interview. Please let me know the date because I am ready. So Philip and Guido, let me know. Someone clip that and send that to them. Ravina, Asha's Awakening. So many artists here. And I think there's Raven Lene. She has this one song that I played a couple weeks ago. That's an interesting one here. So from Chicago, and Robert Glasper, Black Radio 3. Steve Lacy, Gemini Rights. Sudan Archives, National Brown Prom Queen. And then Sid, Broken Hearts Club. So many. So let me put this article here in the chat so we can read it. We can do our homework together. Zaya Bell, Yam Greer. Cool. So let me put this in the chat here. No one's heard any of these. Okay. That's the article right there. Hopefully that shows up in the chat. Yeah, there's it right there. Okay. So that's the articles. What we'll do, we got the touring information. We have the R&B articles. I'll work on the sound. I have no idea. I got to really dig into this, figure it out for next week. Next week, we have Carolyn Owens back with us. We'll see who we're going to interview for that. And then let's see here. Awesome. Let's see, who can we go visit really quickly here with our people. Let's see what we're going to do. What we're going to do. All right, let's go talk to. I believe we're going to go talk to Queued Up Entertainment. Let's go see what Queued Up Entertainment is doing. All right, so let me try this right here. Yes, there we go. I know, love a reason. So hit that article there. Alex, thank you. Songbird, thank you. We have Misty Christie, Holly, Songbird, Alex, CCC Cruz, and London Michelle. That's the mod squad. I will see you all. Hold on, let me show you what I'm gonna see you all again. Let's go back to this one right here. So I'll see you Friday, the Quiet Storm. This is the Mariah party we're having. All Mariah. Can't wait for this. Excited. It's gonna be on really late, but we'll make it do. I don't think that I'm gonna do a regular. I'll see if I'm gonna do a stream before this one. We'll see in terms of Mariah, and because Mariah comes on at 1 a.m. Eastern. This is 10 p.m. here, so we'll see. But Friday, the Quiet Storm. So we'll see about that. Let's join the raid, get the raid message. Thank y'all for tuning in this week in music. We will have Carolyn next week. Oh, Cece, how you doing? There's Cece right there. Good to see you, Cece. Hope you're doing well. I'm getting ready to raid right now. Let's get all of our raiders coming in. We have to tell Jordan what a raid is too. So yeah, thank you all for coming. I love This Week in Music. We'll keep working on it. We've got some exciting things coming for next year as we do that. So we got our emotes. Let me get my emotes ready. Where's the emotes here? Emotes ready. Right there. A big supporter of the channel. Awesome. Thank you, Alex. Thanks, everyone. Stay safe. I will see you all on Friday. I'm excited about Friday, the Mariah party. We'll see if I do a pre-party before. So I'll let y'all know. Pay attention to the schedule here, everything else. Thank you for the new people who tuned in to listen to Jordan. Jordan was great, great information. So such a smart young lady. So happy to have her join us. Amazing classmate too. So very good there. All right, here we go. Have a good rest of the day. I will see you on Friday. Yeah, take a nap. Thank you, Songbird. Okay, here we go. Let's go.